Uncle Storytime. Story 1. Marwe in the Underworld. There was once an African girl named Marwe. She and her brother were responsible for keeping the monkeys from raiding the family bean fields. One day, after they have been faithfully keeping the monkeys away, they both became very thirsty. They turned their backs on the fields and went to a pool to take a drink of water. When they returned to the fields, the monkeys had eaten all the beans. Marwe was so scared of the wrath of her parents that she drowned herself. Her brother rushed home with the terrible news of her suicide. Her parents were so shocked and grieved on hearing the terrible news that they forgot about the bean field. Marwe sank to the bottom of the pool until she entered the land of the dead. She first came to a house where an old woman lived with her children. The old woman identified herself as Marwe's guide in the land of the dead. For many years, Marwe lived with the old woman and helped with the chores. After a time, Marwe became very homesick and began to think of her parents and brother. The old woman was able to read the girl's heart, and she knew that Marwe wished to rejoin the living. So one day the old woman asked Marwe if she preferred the hot or the cold. Marwe didn't understand, and the woman repeated the question. Finally, Marwe answered that she preferred the cold, not knowing what this meant. The old woman had Marwe dip her hands into a clay jar of cold water, and when she pulled her hands out, they were covered with jewels. She put her feet and legs into the jar, pulled them out, and they too were covered with jewels. Smiling, the old woman dressed Marwe in the finest robes and sent her home. The old woman also had the gift of prophecy and told Marwe that she would soon marry the finest man in the world, a man named Fourie. When Marwe arrived home in her fine robes and jewels, her family was overjoyed. They had given her up for dead long before. They marveled at her fine clothing and their newfound wealth. Word spread quickly through the countryside that there was a rich, eligible young woman in the territory, and Marwe's home was visited by hundreds of suitors. Marwe ignored all of the men, including the most handsome of them all, except for a man named Fourie. He suffered from a terrible skin disease that made him look ugly. But, having been to the land of the dead, Marwe was able to read the hearts of men and knew that Fourie was the best of all the men. Fourie and Marwe were married with great feasting, and after their wedding night, when the marriage was consummated, Fourie's skin disease disappeared, showing his face to be the most handsome of all. As Marwe had plenty of fine jewels to spare, they bought a herd of cattle. Soon Marwe and Fourie were the wealthiest people in the land. One might expect that they would now live in happiness, but the many suitors of Marwe were envious of Fourie. All of their friends and neighbors changed, resenting the wealthy young couple. The hostility grew more bitter with each day until a group of neighbors attacked Fourie and killed him. But Marwe had herself already died and knew the secrets of the underworld, including how to revive the dead. She took her husband's body inside their home and recited magic incantations that she had learned from the old woman in the land of the dead. Fourie revived, stronger than ever. When their enemies returned to divide up the wealth, Fourie slew them all. Marwe and Fourie lived in prosperity and happiness for the rest of their lives, and since both had died, they met their final ends without fear. Story 2. Murile and the Moon Chief. Once there was an African youth named Murile, whose mother incessantly nagged at him, criticizing him over every little thing. Nothing he did was ever right. Even his best efforts brought snide remarks from her. Growing tired of this, Murile borrowed his father's stool, which had been in the family for countless generations. He sat on the stool and recited every magic incantation he knew. Suddenly, the stool began to fly up off the earth in the direction of the moon. When he landed on the moon, he came to a village and asked for directions to the home of the Moon Chief. The villagers asked Murile to work for them in exchange for the information. They came to like him, and they told him how to get to his destination, and he went on his way. When Murile arrived at the village of the Moon Chief, he was appalled at how backward the people there was. They knew nothing of fire. They ate their meat raw, had no pottery, and shivered at night from the cold. So Murile took sticks and built a fire, which made him a great hero to the Moon people and a favorite of the Moon Chief. He was hailed as the greatest magician the people had ever known. In recognition of his services, Murile was showered with gifts and honors. The Moon Chief and his subjects could not give Murile enough cattle and wives. Every father wanted Murile to marry his daughters. Soon he was a very rich man with many cattle and wives. Murile prepared to return to Earth in triumph. Now his mother would see that her son had amounted to something. So he sent his friend, the Mockingbird, to announce his imminent return to Earth. However, Murile's family did not even believe their son was alive. They had given him up for dead long ago. When the Mockingbird flew back to the moon with his report, Murile could not believe that the Mockingbird had spoken to his family. So the Mockingbird went back to Murile's earthly village and brought back his father's walking stick as proof of the visit. Finally convinced, Murile prepared to return to Earth. He dressed his wives and many children in their finest clothing and covered them with jewels. He had so much wealth to show off that his mother was sure to be impressed. With this great entourage to bring with him, Murile could hardly travel back on the magic stool, so the entire party left on foot. Murile soon became exhausted, as the moon and Earth was very far apart. One of his finest moon bulls told Murile that he has moon magic, and that he, the bull, would carry his master back to Earth in exchange for a promise. Murile must promise never kill him and eat him. Murile gladly consented. So, the bull transported Murile and his entourage back to Earth. The family of Murile on Earth were thrilled to see him and marveled at his wealth and fine new family. Even his mother rejoiced to have him home. Consistent with her character, she went about bragging to everyone of her rich and powerful son. Murile made his parents swear never to harm the moon magic bull that had brought him home, and they agreed. However, as time passed, Murile and his parents forgot their promise. After all, Murile had so many cattle that they probably forgot which bull was which. So his parents killed the bull, and Murile's mother prepared a dish seasoned with its fat and broth. That evening, as Murile sat down to eat, the meat spoke to him, reminding him of the promise. Murile just laughed and ignored it. As Murile took the first taste of the bull's meat, the earth swallowed him up and buried him forever in darkness.